So to solve a quadratic by factoring and using the zero product property, the first thing we want to do is set the equation equal to 0. So we're going to move everything to one side of the equation. I'm going to move that 16 over to the left. So step 1, we're going to need to set the equation equal to 0. So let's move the 16 by subtracting it on both sides. So I have x squared minus 6x minus 16 equals 0. And then the next step, we're going to factor. So x squared factors out to x and x. And I want factors of negative 16 that would multiply to give me negative 6. So that would be negative 8, positive 2. Okay, and then we use the zero product property. Which simply says if I have two numbers, a times b, that multiplies to give me 0, in order for this equation to be true, one of these has to be 0. So either a is equal to 0, or b is equal to 0, or they're both 0. So at least one factor has to equal 0 in order for this equation to be true. And so similarly, instead of two factors that are just numbers, I have x minus 8 equals one factor, x plus 2 is another factor, and so either x minus 8 is equal to 0 or x plus 2 is equal to 0. And then from there, since we don't know which one, the x minus 8 could be 0 or the x plus 2 could be 0. We have to consider both possibilities. So what if x minus 8 was 0? Then x would have to be 8. What if x plus 2 actually equals 0? In that case, x would have to be negative 2. So when you're solving for x here, you're looking for what x values would make this equation true. And our answer, there's two solutions. There are two x values that would make this equation true, 8 and negative 2. And so to check to see if they both work, just in case we have any extraneous solutions, we put it back in. And we have 8 squared minus 6 times 8, does that equal 16? And then negative 2 squared minus 6 times negative 2, does that equal 16? And we want to check to make sure that they both work.